interesting topic about the application of digital twins in the implantable kidney development. It's a rather complicated topic because the theme of the digital twin is a very broad subject that includes a lot of technicalities and a lot of specifics that makes the development of digital twin quite a challenging task, especially when it goes for biological systems. Even if we talk about rather simple organisms, it requires a huge data collection and huge data analysis to provide an accurate digital twin that basically accurately represent the real physical object. And in case of implantable kidney development, digital twin is basically a tool that will help to monitor the production and quality control of the implantable kidney, including some preliminary tests that will not include a direct interaction with any animal module. And at the same time, digital twin would be a handful tool in terms of the life cycle control after the development cycle, because we have also to observe the interaction between digital twin and implantable kidney inside of the biotechnical system. And just a reminder, if we talk about the renal replacement therapy and we talk about such apparatuses as wearable artificial kidney or implantable artificial kidney technology, we always talk about these apparatuses in the context of the biotechnical system. So it's a merging of the biological object and the technological system that provides some therapy or some interaction with the biological object. And in that case, we have to predict how the biological object as well will behave. So to simplify the definition of the digital twin is basically a virtual representation of the real life physical object, whether it's an a natural object like a microorganism or a human organism, engineered object, whether that be an engine or any sort of a hardware, and even a social system. So basically, it's possible to create a digital twin that would mimic the processes that happen within the social system. At the same time, digital twins can be used for the weather forecast, etc. But the core difference between digital twin or just a simple mathematical representation of some object is that digital twin requires a bidirectional constant data exchange between the physical twin and the real life object, the physical counterpart. Otherwise, it would be just a mathematical imitation, and the most important part of the digital twin is actually mimicking the system. So an engineer or any developer would use a physical twin to predict the evolution of the system or predict the malfunctions that can occur within that system. So a small historical background between different digital twin, despite the fact that the term digital twin appeared relatively not that far, not that somewhere at the beginning of 2000s, the concept of digital twin started to be implemented in NASA space programs, specifically in the Apollo programs, to actually imitate the behavior of the spaceship, especially in this situation when there is no way to monitor the feedback from the apparatus when it's far away from the Earth. And the digital twin could basically imitate the physical counterpart. And for that purpose, they also built the physical representation of this apparatus on the ground. And that allowed them to monitor and receive the feedback from the real apparatus that was launched in some space program mission. For instance, this digital twin technology helped them to um, basically perform the rescue mission for Apollo 13 in 1970 when there was a malfunction within the ship, and there was no way that the engineers on the ground could provide any feedback for the crew without the uh, full information about what type of malfunctions actually occurred on the spaceship. And basically, the digital twin technology provided them a better feedback loop and a better explanation what possible malfunctions could happen in regards of the Apollo 13 mission. So, speaking of types of digital twins, is just a quick overview. During the production cycle, basically, we can divide digital twin on different types of this technology, like the component digital twin. It's basically also called a part twin. It's the lowest level of the digital twin that corresponds with the smallest elements of the system. It could be a certain parts of the equipment, like sensors and different switches and valves, etc. So in comparison, for instance, if we talk about the implantable artificial kidney technology, we have to monitor the ultrafiltration flow. Basically, if we talk about the blood filtration, we have to imitate the primal urine formation, and for that reason, we need to establish some sort of artificial glomerular filtration rate. And in order to monitor how this process will happen inside of the human body, we need to establish a set of sensors that could provide us a better overall look of how ultrafiltration flow goes. At the same time, we have to control the blood parameters, the chemical, some parts of the substrate concentrations, such as the glucose concentration, to make sure that we reabsorb enough of glucose back to blood, or urea concentration if we want to evaluate the clearance of this parameter. And it could be the blood detector sensor that basically, if we have the microfluid system that imitates the glomerular part of the nephron, so we have a microfluid system that directly interacts with blood. Basically, one of the main objectives here is to prevent the blood leakage further through the implantable artificial kidney. Otherwise, we will create some sort of internal bleeding, and we need to make sure that microfluid system actually has a reliable, robust membrane that does not break up in a critical moment and does not lead to the further leakage of blood through the system. That means that we need to monitor at some point if we acquire some ultrafiltrate in the microfluid system. We need to make sure that there is no blood cells that go through this microchip and go further in the proximal tubal imitation part of the system. And in terms of the component twin, it's basically a part of technology that allows us to monitor the main functions of the implantable kidney, or how exactly these sensors will work in terms of the validation of the system, in terms of verification that we acquire an accurate data. And basically, that's one of the first stages of the digital twin development. And just to explain, a digital twin usually cannot exist without the physical counterpart. So we talk about, of course, at the first stage, we provide some physical object. It could be a very earliest prototype or some experimental setup of implantable artificial kidney that basically has some sets of sensor. Then we have to apply the digital twin technology. As we said, there should be a feedback loop between digital version and physical version. Otherwise, it's nothing more than a software or a sort of mathematical model if there is no bidirectional data exchange. And at the stages of the digital twin development, we have to establish the interconnection between the physical counterpart and digital version of the object. And basically, there should be a close interconnection between the digital twin and physical counterpart. So yeah, the component twin is basically a lowest level in the hierarchy of digital twin, which actually relates to some parts of the equipment. The next is the product digital twin. It's also called as the asset digital twin. It's the next stage of the hierarchy of that technology. It usually consists of several component twins and use this information generated by the part twins to model the complex assets, just like it could be engines or some machinery parts. In our case, if we took the implantable kidney and we have a set of sensors that provide us information about the whole asset, we can basically acquire the asset digital twin. That means the digital twin of the implantable kidney is itself, how it operates, what kind of the malfunction we can predict within this system, what kind of the mean time of the malfunction we can calculate, what the mean time of the replacement procedures could be, it could be calculated. And one of the highest hierarchies is the system twin. Usually in terms of industry, we talk about the factory facilities that create the multiple assets, like it could be a car factory or engine factory. And we basically imitate the system that can oversee the production of the entire line of different products. In our case, we can say that we talk about the interaction between two systems. So if we have the asset such as implantable kidney and we have the patient, and we combine, and in terms of the renal replacement therapy, we deal first and foremost with biotechnical system. So it's basically the biological counterpart that been influenced by the technical asset like the implantable kidney. Then we have to overview, we have to make a more complicated version of this digital twin. Basically, we need to combine a digital twin of the human organism, and we have to make the interaction with digital twin that represents the asset. And we have to acquire the data not just about the implantable kidney function, but also about the processes that take place in the human organism, because we have to remember that in case of this device, it's essential that we will not hurt a patient in the long run. That means that we need to acquire the data about the body temperature, for instance, or the glucose level in the blood, or the blood pressure, or any parameters that basically help us to evaluate the overall state of the patient. And we need to make sure that the apparatus does not affect those parameters in a critical way. The process digital twin, it's not like directly related to our topic, but it's related to the entire industry production, like the transportation, the properties of facility like temperature or the humidity within the assembly line. So basically those digital twins can be used as the highest hierarchy twin that can predict the behavior of the entire production line, not just some facility that creates some specific assets, but more like the entire industrial line. Yeah, but we are talking about the digital twins for the medical application. So, in fact, they, like Professor Kosha Guha mentioned right at the beginning of this lecture, digital twins have very big application in medicine and biology, because they can be used in terms of not just patient digital twin, but in some system when we have the number of patients with different parameters, and we need to work with population in terms of molecular data, clinical data, and we can apply this on medicine level for personalized medicine. It basically the same. Uh, it basically some sort relates to our current lection, because the implantable kidney is the personalized medicine. We are trying to make the life of a patient with chronic kidney failure more tolerable, and we need to improve the quality of renal replacement therapy. So in terms of personalized medicine, we still require a data acquired from the patient. It could be a molecular data, for instance, the composition of bloods, the iron composition, or the small size molecule composition, like the nitrogen bound toxins like creatinine, or metabolites like urea. It could be the nutrient concentration like glucose, some amino acids, etc., and so on. And it could be a clinical data regarding of body temperature, blood pressure, the overall state of the patient. And this data basically has to be combined with the data that we acquire from the implantable kidney. And there is a digital twin in the simulation, in the biology level. So it can be used again in terms of the population and biological level, or some personalized data, etc. So digital twin technology actually requires an introduction of AI technology. I will quickly overview that in the lection 11. But basically, from my low-level standpoint, there should be AI technology that actually provides the bi-directional interaction between the physical counterpart and the digital twin of this physical counterpart. So there should be a validation and verification process. So we need to make sure that digital twin actually accurately represents the physical counterpart, and the data that we acquire from the physical counterpart is accurate enough for further prediction and further working. So when we interact with digital twin, we actually acquire inaccurate information about the physical object, and we properly interact with physical object through the means of the digital twin. This is just a small list of technologies that required for the physical object imitation. In this case, they provide as the example of physical object a natural kidney. So basically, we can imitate the particular organ of the human organism, and the higher hierarchy we go, the harder the digital twin technology development will be, because, as we say, we cannot reduce human organism to some part of some of the different systems within the organism, and every single system is interconnected with each other. And if we talk about the digital twin of human body, it's basically a very time-consuming and very data-hungry process. And why exactly it would be preferable to have this digital twin for implantable artificial kidney is in case of biotechnical system? Well, first and foremost, we have to make sure that there are no malfunctions within the kidney. Just like I said, we need to maintain the control over the microfluid system to make sure that it operates properly, that we acquire a proper blood filtration rate, so we can remove enough of excessive water from human organism, that we provide a proper clearance of the specific uric toxins like urea and creatinine. Overall, we need to make sure that there is no leakage of blood within the microfluid system. And the main problem with digital twin, it's not close to what NASA experienced with Apollo project, but it pretty much sounds this in the similar way. We actually implant this kidney into human body, and in order to monitor the function of the implantable kidney, there is no way around. We can just cut open the patient and look what's looking with this particular device that's very dangerous for a patient. So we need to develop the means how we can observe the function of the implantable kidney without the necessity to harm the patient for no good reason. And digital twin is the representation of the physical counterpart, and the digital copy that actually interacts with the physical twin and has the feedback loop with the physical twin. If we properly verify and validate the digital twin, it will provide the accurate information of what possible malfunction can happen within the implantable kidney, and it can actually predict the possible malfunctions in future and give us the mean time when this malfunction might happen. And it can basically provide the real-time information of what particular blood filtration rate we have right now, what clearance of the particular toxins we have in that particular case, and the doctor can evaluate whether the renal replacement therapy is adequate enough, if it's safe for the patient, etc. That's just an example of digital twin developed for microfluidic system in the context of the kidney project. Usually the main software used for the digital twin development is ANSYS software products, but I don't. I think there are more softwares that can actually provide the proper development of the digital twin technology. And another advantage of the digital twin in case of artificial kidney development will be the possibility to test the physical object without using an animal module. Because right now, in current state of arts, when we talk about wearable artificial kidneys or implantable artificial kidneys, the biggest issue so far is we need to perform preliminary tests of the implantable kidney or any medical device to make sure it will not harm the patient. And it's not just the lab testings or some testings made on the cell cultures, it's animal trials as well. And what's the exact problem with animal trials? Usually it's a very expensive and time-consuming procedure, and at the same time it makes a lot of questions in terms of ethical application, because if we imitate the chronic kidney disease, we have to shut down the kidneys of the animal module, and we need to make sure it will not suffer after the test. And what's the big problem with, for instance, with implantable artificial kidneys? We usually need to use the large animal modules like dogs, cows, sheep, pigs, etc. Well, just a small retrospective of my work when I was working with wearable artificial kidneys. Since we developed the wearable artificial kidney for peritoneal dialysis, we had to choose the animal whose peritoneal cavity in anatomic sense would closer to the peritoneal cavity of the human patient. And for that reason, we had to choose such animals like pig animal model. And basically, it's not just time-consuming. It's a huge animal that should be grown in a specific vivarium. They need a specific diet to prevent the excessive fat growth, because it can prevent the further experimentation with peritoneal dialysis. It's also very expensive type of trial. And basically, you need ethical approval for this experiment. You need to sign a document that you will provide this procedure in the painless manner for the animal, so it will not suffer during the experiment. And you need to basically kill the animal when this procedure is over, because it's no way around. It can live without the kidneys. Basically, you need to make sure that the animal will not suffer, or you need to make sure that you will decrease the suffering of the animal. And so it's not just a time-consuming process, it's also an ethical issue. And digital twin is a type of technology that basically can ease the further testings of the apparatuses, because it's not always a successful test. If we talk about the animal module, some tests can fail, and we still kill the animal in the process. And if we need to predict what malfunctions or what possible issues can occur during the animal module testing, we can basically develop a digital twin of biotechnological system that includes the digital twin of an animal and the apparatus. And we can, within this digital twin, we can predict the interaction between apparatus and the organism, and we can predict what symptoms can occur during the different phases of the apparatus exploitation. And we can predict what malfunctions can happen with the apparatus without the need to actually test this apparatus on the animal. So basically, we can provide a bigger data before we go for the animal testing. Because for instance, for implantable artificial kidneys, such as the kidney project, they need a very big animal module to test the implantable kidney. For instance, the kidney project was already tested on cows, and it's an expensive and a painful procedure, and it's a painful procedure for the cow. And basically, digital twin can decrease the necessity of the animal trials, or make them more accurate, because we test things before we go for the animal trials, and animal trials we will use just to prove the safety issues of the apparatus. Yeah, that's just the idea that usually when we talk about the digital twin, we talk about the digital object that coexists with the physical counterpart. Basically, digital twin cannot exist without a real physical object. But at the same time, if you look through the literature, sometimes you will hear about the digital twin prototypes. Basically, it's a type of digital twin that exists before the physical counterpart. So we make the digital twin prototyping, and then according to the information that we acquire from the prototype, we can continue further work with the physical counterpart. So we can create a simulation of the physical twin, and then we can provide this simulation of the physical twin, and then we can go for the hybrid prototype, and from that to physical prototyping. Yeah, that's like the quick summary of this lecture. So the first and foremost, we need to provide a proper rationale between the digital twin technology, because it's not always obvious why exactly we need the digital twin for any physical object we want to develop. So in case of the implantable artificial kidney, since it's an implantable technology and there is no way we can interact with this object when we already implanted it in the biological object, we need to acquire a means of constant monitoring of parameters of ultrafiltration rate, of the clearance of uremic toxins. We need to make a prediction of how this device will operate as the part of biotechnical system, that basically we can acquire the artificial kidney patient system. We need to identify the probable malfunctions or deficiencies of the device during its development. We need to provide a proper study of the device operation in order to determine further design steps and the construction without additional cost and the experimental testings. And in case of digital twin, that's basically a summary of what I just already said. It's a necessity of the constant monitoring of the biotechnological system without the direct interaction with the physical counterpart. And of course, we covered the pre-experimental studies which usually require the interaction with real animal module. And at some stages, it can provide a better overlook of how this system will operate without the necessity to basically interact with animal module without any critical necessity, because animal trials usually are needed to prove that this system is already functioning, but it will not hurt the animal in the long run. Yeah, basically that's the end of my lecture. I think it was even shorter in comparison with my main field of expertise, wearable artificial kidney. If you have any question, we'll be glad to answer them. Yeah.
Thank you for the lecture.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to ask, so if I understand correctly, there must be some stage at which the digital twin must, let's say, learn from the data that it's getting from the physical counterpart. But in my purview, I can see that for the digital twin to, let's say, effectively represent the physical counterpart has to be used in the same manner or the same fashion as it would usually be, that is like inside a human or like an animal, and then it can obtain the data, and then it can, let's say, train itself or something like that.
Yeah, there should be a condition where digital twin should mimic what exactly the physical counterpart, what happens to the physical counterpart. And for that, we need actually the integration of the machine learning and the artificial intelligence that can basically establish this informational and data feedback between the physical counterpart and the digital twin. And for that, of course, when we talk about model-based system engineering, we require the specialist who can verify and validate the work of the digital twin in the context how exactly it learned, how accurately, what if we acquire the accurate data from the physical counterpart, and whether the digital twin actually accurately represents the physical counterpart.
But I mean, like, so for that, the physical counterpart has to be deployed or has to be used in the condition that it would usually be used. Otherwise, the data is sort of meaningless. No, it has to be used in an animal, and then we can obtain the, let's say, real usable data.
Yeah, it's actually a good point, because if we talk about the original understanding of the digital twin is basically a type of technology that cannot exist without the physical object. So basically, the only thing that I see from my standpoint is if we already have a digital twin of the biological object, we can basically develop some sort of a digital twin that combine digital twins like artificial kidney and the biological object. But speaking of biological object, such as a fly, of course, we need to observe in real life, like obtain the data from the real object to actually imitate in the digital object. And if it goes in for manufacturing, of course, the digital twin will not be able to exist without the physical counterpart. And if we do some testings with some engine or some asset, we need to actually operate with the asset to send this data to the digital twin. Otherwise, it's meaningless. We just do a mathematical module and we do not interact with the physical counterpart. But in case of biotechnical system, yes, it could be a challenge, because we still require some sort of a pre-existing digital twin of the real object, and we will not acquire this real object, this digital twin, without interacting with the real object. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for the insightful presentation, sir.
Yeah.
My question is regarding the robustness of digital twin.
Mhm.
So, suppose the implantable kidney is placed inside the patient, and we know that the human processes, the physiological processes, are very complex. So, suppose a thrombosis, blood clotting, such kind of process happen by chance. So, and the digital twin, however, it is not able to detect it, or it detects it, but it misreads it, means it gives a false data. So, in that case, uh, what could be done to make it more robust?
Well, from that point of the robustness, it's actually a good question because we need to validate and verify the digital twin. And the most critical issue we have if we already have a digital twin that might be inaccurate and we already have the operational system within the animal object. So we need to validate and verify the digital twin before we go the real animal testing. So we need to make sure that the sensors and the feedback loop with the digital twin is actually providing the accurate information to the digital twin and the response of digital twin. So the data that's sent back to the physical counterpart is actually adequate enough for the physical counterpart to react properly. And it's actually a huge issue. And the robustness, I think, it should be the primal concern before we go for the animal trials. Because if we have the not reliable digital twin and it does not provide inaccurate feedback, and the data might be corrupted or the representation of that data was made in the wrong way, that means that we basically are capable of killing the animal module because any malfunction can lead to this primal issue. So robustness actually should be related to validation and verification process, and that's another type of specialist that require for this issue to be resolved.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, one more thing you have explained regarding these digital twins, where you have mentioned the components. There is component, there is product,
Mm.
system, and process. So in system, we mentioned that it can be thought of as a whole this assembly line of the factory.
Mhm.
So my question is, if there is a digital twin of a single organ, can there be a digital twin of multiple organs and be it can be integrated to develop, suppose, human on chip or patient on chip, such kind of thing?
Yeah, there can be a hierarchy of the digital twin. Basically, from the if you just look through the literature, you can even find the information about the strategy of developing of digital twin for human organism as a whole. So on the one hand, we can develop a separated digital twin of specific system like the kidneys or liver or heart. At the same time, we can entertain the idea of developing a digital twin of the entire human organism. Well, it's of course, a time-consuming process. I'm not it's not my direct field of expertise, but when I was listening to the specialists who were creating a digital twin of the nerve system of a fly, it actually took them about decade of data collecting and the preparation of the digital twin for this specific organism, and not just the organism as a whole, but for the nerve system of the fly. So basically, what we have to consider is that the digital twin is actually a very complicated and a time-consuming process that requires a lot of data collecting, validation, verification, etc. So when we talk about the human organism and not just about specific organ, but the entire system, how different parts of human body interact with each other, I think it will be even more challenging than creating an engine or creating a digital twin of some specific part of the fly. So right now they entertain the strategies of how we can present the digital twin of the human organism, but as far as I know, it's still in progress.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. More questions? Should we go to the next lecture or just a short break? Hmm? Hmm? Ah, okay. Yeah, let's have a break then. Yeah, thank you for your attention. And yeah, see you in the next lecture.